Hello YouTube, Pro Akron here with another video. And you'll have to excuse me, I may sip some coffee now and then because I have a little bit of a cold. But suck it up, get over it. Now, the Pro Akron channel is not a survival channel. Okay, I like survival topics, I really do. I visit a lot of forums and I go online and I discuss things with people. I know a lot about survival. I've been trained by both civilian and military organizations on personal survival. I'm really into that kind of stuff. My dad actually got me interested in that at a very young age, trying to teach me how to survive, how to find food, how to make sure that you have shelter and water, those types of things. He knew a lot about plants that I don't know. For some reason that never really stuck to me, so I'm not going to go around in the woods grabbing plants and shoving them in my mouth. I do know the procedure, thanks to military training, about how to identify edible plants and distinguish them from inedible plants. So there's a lot of survival training and skill that I do have, but I don't talk about it on my channel necessarily because there's too many other people out there doing it, and quite frankly, there's only so many ways you can build a fire without matches, and build a shelter in the woods and set a snare and catch a fish. So my number one interest is personal survival during critical situations. So that's the majority of the training that I've provided other people in different organizations, including the military, and so I kind of concentrate on that because that's my comfort zone. Now, do I know how to do all those other things, and have I actually done them? Yes. But I just don't concentrate on that on my channel. But within the survivalist community, there seems to be a segment that I'm just now getting familiar with, the WROL crowd. WROL, as Captain Burrs explained once in his video, is a term that was apparently coined by Nut and Fancy. I almost said Nuts Are Fancy. I almost gave you an illegitimate prop. But Nut and Fancy apparently coined this term back in '08, and it kind of caught on and people use it now. You have without rule of law and rule of law, and they have all these other terms that go along with them, like sheep and sheepdogs and shepherds and wolves. And I guess it can get very complicated. I don't necessarily understand it all. I understand the concept. You're afraid that you're going to wake up someday and you're going to be in a world that has no legitimate government, and there's no legislation, there's no law enforcement, and the world, it's like a post-apocalyptic kind of Mad Max type of world, Book of Eli type of world, or The Road type of world. You guys watch too many movies, but you're afraid of that, and so you train for that and try to prepare yourself for that. It's fine. I don't have any issues with anybody who does that. I believe that a person should understand how to survive under any circumstances. Everything from what do you do when you lose a job to what do I do if the government collapses and I'm in the middle of Costa Rica surrounded by rebels and terrorists and commie pinko whack jobs. How do I get out? How do I survive until I can get out? If I'm trapped in the woods, get lost in the woods somewhere, crash my car and go down a ravine, and I'm trapped down there for 2 days, how am I going to survive until I can either escape or get rescued? It's all great stuff. I fully support any kind of training that helps an individual learn how to survive. But the WROL crowd, I never really considered myself a part of that crowd, but I was recently dragged into it, I guess, into the debate on WROL by this comment, and I'll post it on the screen, from EmpathyWorks. Now, what do I know about EmpathyWorks? Nothing. He has no videos posted on his YouTube channel. I no real comments or anything, on his page to help you understand what he's all about. He does have a Captain Burrs video, highlighted or featured on the front of his page, so he can't be all bad, right? 'Cause he's a Captain Burrs fan. I'm trying to get the whole Burrs beard. He's got better hair than I do. But this is the comment, and I quote, "Shoot this guy if you see him during WROL. He's definitely a wolf." I don't know what that means. Or at least I didn't. Say I do now. I asked him to clarify that in the comments section, and of course he didn't. Which means one of two things. Either he never came back, or he doesn't get notified when someone replies to one of his comments, or he's too afraid to confront the issue and have a conversation about it with me, the person that he sort of threatened to shoot. Now, do I take this as a personal threat or something I need to be concerned about or worried about? No. Do I think EmpathyWorks is going to, come hunt me down? No. I think I understand what he's saying, because all the research that I had to do, because I was bothered by this, quite frankly. This is my first death threat on YouTube. Kind of cool. So he's going to, go into the YouTube Hall of Fame for Milpro Akron's channel. But supposedly, the term wolf is designed or used to describe people who victimize others, who feed relentlessly off of the sheep, the poor people, the huddled masses that would be left behind in a WROL, who are unable to fend for themselves and take care of themselves. And these wolves will be protected by sheepdogs. Shepherd, I think, would be a better term. But these are the people who view themselves as being a post-apocalyptic Moses who's going to lead the masses to the promised land after the collapse of all society. Most of them will probably turn out to be more like a post-apocalyptic Reverend Jim Jones leading the masses to ultimate destruction. But that's their philosophy. And these sheepdogs or shepherds are going to protect the sheep from the wolves, which apparently I'm a wolf. So, first of all, I've dedicated my entire adult life to protecting other people, often at my own peril. It's what I've been trained to do. I was taught, also by my father, that the strong have an obligation to take care of the weak. I'm not, a supremacist type mentality or any kind of a fascist type mentality where you're either one of the elite or you're, inhuman. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I believe that if you have strengths, talents, skills, and abilities that others don't have, you become obligated to use that same set of skills in order to protect people who can't protect themselves. That's more or less what I've done my entire adult life. But how that makes me a wolf, I'm not sure. I'm not really sure what I said or what appeared in my video that made this person think that I was a wolf. One definition of the wolves in WROL are terrorists, murderers, oppressors, rapists. I don't really get all that, but I do know one thing about WROL, and that's why I'm going to call this video an intervention. Most of you, or okay, let's not even say most, let's say a lot of you, think that after the collapse of society, you are going to somehow be seen as a leader that's going to drag the rest of us kicking and screaming into a new form of civilization. That's ludicrous. Most of you are too young, too inexperienced, and possess absolutely no leadership skills whatsoever in order to pull anything like that off. Yeah, you might be the alpha dog in your family or in your little clique, and you might be the leader of that little group, but you honestly don't possess the skills necessary to do that on a community-wide basis. Now, by saying things like, this person is a wolf in a WROL and he needs to be shot, you need to take this person out, take that person out, you're making your own determination. You're taking on the responsibility of determining who's viable and who gets to live and who gets to die in your imaginary post-apocalyptic world. Doesn't that make you the wolf? If you're going to victimize others because of some perceived threat? I don't know, sounds kind of wolfish to me. Doesn't seem like something a sheepdog would do, or a sheep. I have gone out and watched a lot of videos, WROL videos, over the last couple of months actually. I've seen a lot of things, and a lot of it, quite frankly, doesn't disturb me, but it kind of makes me scratch my head, because a lot of people are imagining in this WROL that they're going to somehow train up an army and they're going to face off with some other army or oppressive regime or invading force, and that somehow they're through running their buddy drills and storing their canned goods and having 100,000 rounds of ammunition, they're going to somehow bring about a new world. That's ludicrous. In most cases, it's going to be you and your immediate family, or maybe 4 other guys. So let's say that 4 other guys spend the next 20 years running buddy drills in anticipation of an invasion that's never going to happen, and then you're going to face off with what? An invading army? 4 guys facing off with a platoon of highly trained and expendable soldiers is what we call in modern terms suicide. You are not a threat to anybody. You become a threat in a WROL when you're invisible. That's why a lot of people who are running infantry tactics and buddy drills and squad tactics and room clearing and all of these other things that I keep seeing people doing under the title of WROL really makes me laugh in some cases, because you aren't going to be doing any of that. In a WROL, your number one priority is the preservation of your family. Helping your family survive. That's you and your immediate loved ones, or your friends, or whoever you have in your little group. Their survival in this situation is of the utmost importance. So going out looking for, battalions of Chinese infantry or whatever, with your little band of 4 people that you've been running buddy drills with, is nothing short of suicide. And once you're killed off, because quite frankly it wouldn't take very long, once you're killed off, you've just left your family unprotected. And if you were the alpha dog who was supposed to be helping them survive, you just abandoned them. So that whole concept of, I'm going to put together even a squad of trained individuals and we're going to practice day and night and day and night and day and night, and we're going to become warriors in the WROL, really all you're doing is sacrificing yourself for no purpose. When your real obligation is to protect your family and to help them survive during this terrible crisis, however long that takes. Water, food, shelter, first aid. Help your family survive, because they're relying on you to protect them. Now, roving bands of criminal raiders could happen. Happens all the time. Hell, it happens now in today's society. They're called street gangs and thugs. And for some unknown reason, we're not allowed to kill them. I don't know why. We should be able to, because more or less they're trying to create a WROL. So under WROL concepts, they should be, fair targets. But what you have are communities. Let's say there's a complete and total collapse of the economy, the American government, at all levels. Federal, state, local, no more government, complete anarchy and chaos. Where do you think all those soldiers, cops, and firefighters and EMTs are going to go? They're going to go home, to their neighborhoods, to their communities, to their families. They all live among us. So if you think that they're going to sit back and all of a sudden become sheep that need your guidance, you're a fool. Because they're not going to be sheep. And they're not going to allow their communities or their neighborhoods or their families to become victimized by these roving bands of lunatics. They'll band together and they'll utilize all those vast years of experience and those skills and all that training that they acquired in their profession to help preserve their family and their community and ensure its survival. So little roving bands of gangs that are running around trying to victimize the weak, I have a feeling are going to be met with not only resistance, but destruction. I think a lot of you imagine that if the government were to collapse and the economy were to collapse, that the military and law enforcement would all of a sudden become the oppressor of the people. Well, guess what? We're out of a job too. It's not just your GM factory that shut down. It's not just your hot dog plant that shut down or your bread factory. We're out of a job too. If there's a complete and total economic collapse and a lack of government in our country, who's going to pay us and keep us employed? No one. So now we're left to our own devices. Our number one priority, protect our families and survive until the chaos at least subsides enough to where communities can begin to remold themselves. And what emerges, what emerges. It may go back to a feudal society or whatever you can imagine it might be. But one thing I do know is that I am far from a wolf, but I do have wolf-like tendencies. And those always come out when I feel that my family or myself are threatened. So if you really want to turn me into a wolf, tell me that I don't deserve to live and that I should be shot. You just became the enemy. And believe me, you don't want me to be your enemy. You want me to be your friend. Because you're going to need all the friends you can get in a WROL or tomorrow. So, any of you who have this strange notion that I am one of the wolves and that I should be slaughtered just in case, I have one thing to say to you. Bring a lunch, because you're in for a long fucking day. Till next time, it's Mil Pro Akron. Train hard, stay alive.